You're listening to the DeCesare Group Podcast. Welcome back. I'm your host, Jim DeCesare, and I'm glad you're here. Hey, do us a favor and subscribe to the DeCesare Group Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. The DeCesare Group Podcast is a companion to our newsletter, Soki Economic Development and Business News, which you can subscribe to on our website, thedecesaregroup.com. I'm very excited for you to hear from this week's guest, Angie Mosley. Angie is the owner of Highland Stables and co-creator of the wildly successful Gypsy Moon Marketplace. Angie is the creative mind and dreamer of Highland Stables as an event venue, and she's going to tell us about the history of the space and how it's evolved into a place most everyone has visited at some point or another. Angie and her family are very involved in the community and make a big impression with their business savvy. Here's my conversation with Angie Mosley. Angie, welcome to the DeCesare Group Podcast. How are you?
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
Well, you had a big Gypsy Moon recently. Everything went well?
Everything went great.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So congratulations on another
Thank
successful event. It's really taken on a life of its own to some extent. But let's start about Highland Stables because you've been doing this for a while. So tell us the backstory about this beautiful facility.
Yeah. So Highland Stables was built in 2000 on our family farm. We now have we've got about 175 acres out on Hunts Lane, and initially Highland Stables, we always say it was built out of love because my mother-in-law has had a lifelong love of horses, and so my father-in-law built that for her. And
is that Charlie?
That's Charlie.
All right.
That's Charlie. He built it for Betty. She's always loved horses, and in fact, Betty just quit riding horses a couple of years ago.
Okay.
So she was well into her late 70s when she stopped riding horses.
Wow.
So yeah. So it was just, built out of love.
So how many horses did they have in that stable? Because
Oh
I've been there a bunch of times, and there's
just us alone. We had probably at one time 15, but initially we started out as just a boarding facility, and then we had our own horses up there, and then of course the Mosleys caught the fever and they decided to get into the Tennessee walking horses, so it transferred more into like a professional training facility where we had a trainer on site and lots of grooms and things like that, and we trained horses for other people. So
that's a big business. Most people think about Kentucky and the Derby,
That's right.
the
Yeah.
racing horses, but
Yeah.
there are a lot of different types of horses, and I know very little about them, but I've heard about the Tennessee walking horses. I believe it's in Shelby County, Tennessee is kind of the
it's
horse.
Shelbyville, Tennessee. Yeah, it is.
The walking horse capital of the world.
Big deal. During their celebration, they shut down schools and everything else. It's big.
And I think our former sheriff was big into that
that's
as
right.
well.
Peanuts was definitely involved in that, and he was always. We hosted a couple of shows a year out at the stables, and Peanuts was always in attendance.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, and it's good to know that we have those types of things happening around here in Bowling Green, Warren County, and South Central Kentucky. But Highland Stables has really become one of those places that people really want to be a part of, whether it's for their weddings or special events or whatever. But who all works with you, and how do you all divide and conquer that facility? Because I'm sure it's not just a one-person job.
Oh, absolutely not. So in 2014, our last trainer left, and we decided at that point in time the boys were grown. Nobody was really into showing anymore, so we totally I took the stables over, and my daughter-in-law Whitney joined me. She was just out of Western at the time, and so she joined me, and she and I worked together from day one. Yeah.
And so you've turned this facility around, and I think I was there maybe. You've done a lot of renovations or additions or upgrades to the facility over the years. So you went basically from a working operational stable. Tell us about some of the things that you've done to the facility since then.
Oh my goodness. So when we first started hosting weddings, we were sawdust on the floor. We were pretty rustic. We definitely were. So we tell everybody it's a work in progress at Highland Stables because we weren't built as an event venue, but now we have beautiful paved floors, and anything that we do at Highland Stables is a big deal because we're 25,000 square feet inside.
It's a huge facility.
It is, yeah. It definitely is. I tell everybody it's my blessing and my curse. I love that it is so big that we can host large events, and at the same time, when it's time to roof, that's not a pleasant thing,
Yeah.
But yeah.
And I know that you all obviously put restrooms in there, and you've got heat in there now, so you're year-round, right?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Well, we're not air conditioned, so we take off in July and August, and so those are our 2 months that we take off, and we do improvements every year.
Okay. So in Highland's a little bit different than most stables because and I've been in a lot of stables, and as you know, and a lot of people that listen to this, I play in a wedding band.
Right.
And we've played out there, and we've played stables before. Usually, though, you don't have that big space in between each side.
Right.
So how wide is that? Do you know?
You know what? I don't know exactly.
It's wider than usual.
Absolutely,
I mean,
yeah.
you could get a couple trucks through there.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, definitely.
So it's very spacious. Is where I'm heading with this.
It's very spacious. Literally, we are set up all the time that we can do a ceremony at one end of the stables and then the reception at the other. So whether your wedding is indoors or outdoors, we're already always prepared, and it's always set up for you.
That's awesome. So is it just you and Whitney still?
It is Whitney and I, and then we have Kayleen Labor that joined us about 3 years into the journey, and so she is definitely she's worth her weight in gold to us. We don't know what we would do without Kayleen.
So these types of venues, and I know there was some legislation maybe 10, 15 years ago that allow for ag diversification, I think is a word. And we've seen a lot of barns and stables and whatnot be converted over to event facilities. And these things have kind of taken a life of their own, and there are a lot of them. Do y'all have like an organization that y'all have formed? Has anybody formed a group yet of, agriculture wedding venues organization of Kentucky?
Not that I know of, to be honest with you. And that's what I tell everybody, as far as, going from, an equine training facility to an event venue. I mean, you've just got to look at farming like any other business or your farms. It's the evolution of the family farms.
Yeah.
And if we want to be able to keep our farms, and keep them thriving, we've got to evolve like any other business.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Are you all still farming out there? Are you doing anything?
We still have beef cattle,
Okay.
and then we still grow hay. And
All right.
Charlie is still, he is well into his years, but you would not know it.
I need to get Charlie on here because he's a character, and I'm sure there are some great stories that he has, because he's been around for a long time, and he's seen the evolution of Bowling Green and Warren County a small rural county to what it is today.
Definitely.
And,
definitely. But he still takes care of us. He still takes care of the farm, and, it's great.
That's awesome. So, has Highland Stables have your expectations been made through working in this space and doing these types of things? Or are you still trying to grow and do other things? What's the future look like for you?
I am one of these people that I'm very ADHD, and I think a lot of people I think a lot of business owners and creatives probably are.
Yeah.
I'm awake at 1 o'clock in the morning constantly thinking of all these different things, and luckily I've got another dreamer by my side, which is Whitney, and she makes it happen from the social media part of it and brings that in. And then we have Kayleen, who says, come back down, to earth. We don't need to do that, So yes, I mean, we are, we've always thinking of things and evolving. And in fact, we've got another business that we're going to be launching in the next few months. So,
breaking
we'll
news.
be able to talk about that soon.
Okay, we'll have to get you back on to talk about that.
Yeah.
So, talk about some of the events that you have there. I know, and I've mentioned weddings, and I know you've had political fundraisers out there and other events. But what are some of the types of other events that you've had?
So on top of doing the weddings, we do corporate events. We do some fundraisers. Doug Gorman has his Birdies for Brittany concert out there with us usually. We've hosted CCK events. Last year was our first year of kind of sponsoring or co-sponsoring the new Galentine's celebration that we do in February for brass.
Okay.
So we do a
The
lot
Barren
of
River
things.
Area Safe Space.
That's right. Yes. So it's a Galentine's event, and
That's awesome.
it was met with great success. So we're going to do that again in February.
Well, I will say this about you and your family. You know, obviously you're running a business, but you're also always giving back, and I think you don't get enough credit for that. So we, speaking on behalf of our community, thank you for doing what you do to help.
You.
You know what, like the Camp for Courageous Kids. Brass, they're all wonderful organizations, and they're always fundraising and need money to keep their operations going and do the great things that they do.
Absolutely.
Any cool events, memorable events out there that sort of go, there was this one time.
As somebody who most of the time loves politics. I love meeting Riley Gaines this past year.
Yeah.
We had her at the stables,
right.
and like I just felt
She's
like
fantastic.
oh my goodness, I felt like I met my best friend. Absolutely loved her. Man. So that was a fangirl, thing for me. But I enjoy.
She's
all
like
aspects.
old enough to be your daughter, right?
I know.
That's pretty cool.
I know. So cool though. I really enjoyed meeting Riley. She was. I was like, how you think when you meet somebody. I was like, oh, please let her be what I feel like she's gonna be, and she just surpassed.
That's
she
awesome.
was just like, yeah.
Of course, she went to UK, and
Yeah.
she's very outspoken about males playing female sports.
That's right. Yeah.
And
that's
so,
right.
and
yeah.
I actually got to meet her this summer too at Blue Cotton. I think it was the same week that she was here.
Yeah.
But anyhow,
yeah.
that's cool.
She's
all right. So you got all these great things coming along, and then Gypsy Moon.
Mm-hmm.
Now tell us about Gypsy Moon for those that don't know.
Right. So Gypsy Moon, now, maybe I didn't know that it was going to be the name of Gypsy Moon, but I always wanted to host an event like this.
Mm-hmm.
I was raised to love antiques and repurpose things and that kind of thing. So I just always wanted to host a market. So I, along with my sidekick, Whitney, she and I created Gypsy Moon. We sat at our little antique table in our break room and came up with the name, and
it's a great
it took
name.
off. It took off, and it's kind of become its own, I won't say, I guess you could say beast, but it's definitely, a separate business that Whitney works, all year round on that. So,
and y'all do this twice a year,
we
right?
do this twice a year.
So
yeah.
you just had the event in November, November, and when is the other one?
So November's our Christmas show, and then we do one in April that's more of a spring market.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So who shows up at this event? I mean, tell us what's being sold, what's being shown for the guys that don't know.
Right, absolutely. There is a lot for the guys. So it's anything from antiques to handmade things. It's boutiques. It's a lot of different things. But what Gypsy Moon is, these vendors travel all over the United States. The ones that we have a few local people, but in my mind, I feel like we've got a lot of local markets that really showcase our local artists.
Yeah.
So I wanted to bring something to our community that maybe you wouldn't see. So we'll have probably vendors from 7 different states set up. And they go from one show to the next show. That's what they do. That is their living.
They're like gypsies.
They're like gypsies. Yes. They are like gypsies. So they go from one event to the other. And so we'll have, I think we have anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 people, that'll come through for the Christmas show.
Is that over one day or a couple days?
3 days.
3 days.
Mm-hmm. It's 3 days.
I know you all give back through this event as well. So talk a little bit about, I believe I'm right when I say this, but I think parking is handled by...
So Life's Better Together.
Yes.
Yeah, we partner with Life's Better Together and have since pretty much the first show. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so to date, we have given them right at or a little surpassed $100,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So.
And, we don't ever hear about that.
Yeah.
So, that's the good things that you're doing. And I know the Ned Idlet and Matt get out there
Great
and they
people.
park cars, right?
Absolutely. They work hard. Yeah, they work hard. Yes,
That's
they do.
fantastic. In fact, I remember calling Matt one year And he goes, I'm out here in the rain parking cars, because I had to ask him a question or something. And,
Yeah, that's right.
And he says it's pouring out here. But, that event is really huge. And, of course, I know Amy and her sister have been out there several times. So that's awesome. And congratulations on the great success with Gypsy Moon.
Thank you.
What other events do you all host? I mean, we talked about some of them, but any other unique events that are going on out there? That
we've begun to do a few celebration of lives. I'm not after Kevin Kirby's job by any, but we've had a few of those,
Right.
and so I mean we're open to anything.
Sure.
The one thing that I have learned on this journey is never say never. Every time I say never, God laughs at me. And
that's right.
And so yeah.
So other than July and August when you're closed, about how many events a year are you hosting?
So we do usually around 32 events.
Okay. So basically every weekend almost.
For the most part, yeah.
I mean, except for maybe take Christmas off.
Holidays, and then we take a little bit off around Gypsy Moon, because that is, we totally, especially for the Christmas show, we transition everything. It looks like Hallmark when you go in.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So, well, maybe they'll come out and shoot
That's
a movie.
right. Yeah, that's right.
So I'm going to pivot just a little bit. That's a word I use for our engineer. We use the, close a business in today terminology. But M&L Electric is a family business as well. Talk a little bit about that. Just so give them a shameless plug as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So they do a lot of great things in the community as well. I mean, we see them involved in a lot of different events
That's
too.
right. Yeah, they definitely do. I've definitely got some good mentors over at M&L Electrical.
Yeah.
So
and your husband Chris.
My husband Chris is the CEO. Yeah, and they will be celebrating their 50th anniversary.
Wow.
Next year. Yeah. So
That's awesome.
We're revving up for a big celebration next year. Yeah.
So 50 years, and they do a lot
major.
of like industrial electrical work. And
Yeah,
things
more
like that.
commercial. Yeah,
So-
more commercial, industrial.
And I know that between you and Chris and M&L and Highland, you're highly involved with the Chamber of Commerce, and you sponsor a lot of different events out there. But the one thing that's always intrigued me, and because I'm a huge Dave Ramsey fan.
Yes.
Amy and I, when we got married in 1990, do I have to say it like 1992?
That's right.
After a couple years of marriage, we went through the Dave Ramsey Financial Peace University.
Peace.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
And we've kind of lived it for the most part. I mean, we all stray a little bit off of his, but I do know that Chris takes a group out to the summit every year. I've been to Entre Leadership a couple times, and it's just
fun.
awesome stuff.
Oh, it's so fun.
So how did you all get involved with Ramsey?
Chris is very, very big on personal development.
Yeah.
In fact, there's rarely a morning that goes by that he doesn't send me a podcast or some kind of uplifting whatever.
Maybe he'll send
my
you
way.
this one.
Yes, he definitely, so he's big on that, and lighting a fire under your group and stuff. And I mean, Entre Leadership is.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ever get an opportunity to go.
Yeah.
It is so good. Yes.
And they're getting ready to, I think that they just may have had their Entre Leadership and then the summits in the spring. So they have these two big events every year. And I went in person last year, and it was an amazing experience.
So good. It really is. I've been twice, and I absolutely, yeah.
And the reason I bring this up, because we do have a lot of business people that listen to this podcast. And if you want to get energized and get back on track with your business or industry, check out Ramsey Solutions.
Absolutely.
And we have, M&L Electric. I know Ginger Cleary and her State Farm group. They're a part of that. Of course, I think Ginger and Chris grew up together. So,
yes.
But just fantastic stuff. So we talked about a lot of things here. Did I leave anything out?
I don't think so.
Well, we appreciate all you do for the community and having that great venue out there on Hunts Lane. And if anybody wants to check it out or find out about, having their wedding there or whatever, I'll put your email or web address in the show notes so people can check it out.
Yes.
And Angie, thanks for being on the DeCesare Group Podcast.
I am honored to have been on your podcast.
We're glad you're here. We'll catch you again.
Thank you.
Thanks again to Angie Mosley, owner of Highland Stables, for being on the DeCesare Group Podcast, and thank you for listening. Hey, if you like what you hear, please share it with a friend, and don't forget to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Leave us a review and share your feedback with us as well. You can also follow the DeCesare Group across all of our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and X. The DeCesare Group Podcast is produced by the DeCesare Group, a public relations and consulting firm based in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Our engineer and own Gypsy is Justin DeCesare, with content contributions from Brooke Mattingly and Amy DeCesare. I'm Jim DeCesare, and join us again next time for the DeCesare Group Podcast.